Welcome to the Behind the Seal podcast, your guide to the world of gaskets and sealing solutions as we highlight Durlon's best. My name is Rila Sandra, and today I have with me John Kuehner, Vice President and General Manager of Gasket Resources. How are you doing today, John?
Doing great.
Great. I'm glad you could make the time to be with us today. We have a lot of questions we want to ask to get and pick your brain about your expertise and learn a little bit more about your journey and your career.
Sure. Thanks for having me. It's nice to be invited.
Yeah, of course, of course. All right,
Mhm.
so starting us off, our first question would be, can you share with us a bit about your career journey before joining Casket Resources and what ultimately brought you here in your current role?
Okay, so full disclosure, I know you were going to ask me this question. So, and the more I haven't been asked this question for quite a while. So when you asked it, when I knew it was going to be, I had to go look at the math. And I guess I'm going
Mhm.
to date myself when I answer this question because I've been in the chemical industry for 30 years. I was in the chemical for 30 years before coming to Gasket Resources. So now I've been here for seven. So I've been 37 years. And when I say that, it makes me sound pretty old. But but
Not at all.
yeah, I feel I guess when you get to this age, things just don't work as good as they used to. But anyway, but it's been a good journey. So let's
Hmm.
so where have I been? Where's my career? Where have I come from? And my background is chemical engineering. And like I said, I've been in the chemical industry for 30 years prior to coming to GRI. And spent a lot. I kind of grew up in polymers. I spent some time in pharmaceutical, feed, and food as well, doing that before I came here. So I haven't been in the gasket industry for that many years. Only 7 since I've been here. But being in the industrial space for that many years has kind of exposed me to the gasket world in a lot of different ways. So I spent most of my informative years in engineering, doing process engineering, process control engineering, which is probably what I like the most. Um, and then, as I got a little bit older, I've been pretty fortunate to have my career kind of progress with increasing responsibilities in a nice progression. So I never got promoted or was given too many responsibilities too soon, which does happen to a lot of young engineers as they get into their fields. But then I moved into management. For the past 13 years, I've been doing. I was VP of operations for a public chemical company, doing a lot of M&A and due diligence and some international acquisitions. So it was kind of a good ride. And then about 7 or 8 years ago, decided to go out on my own and do some consulting. And then after doing consulting for a few years, I was in a position. I actually wanted to buy a company, and we were living in New York. And I know you kind of said what kind of brought me to GRI. This is kind of an interesting story. We were living in New York. We had been there for 13 years, and my family. I'm from the South Jersey, Philadelphia area, and we have family in the Chester County area of PA where I am now. And my wife and I were looking to actually move down into this area. So we actually were doing some house hunting in Chester County, PA, which is where GRI's headquarters is. And I wasn't really looking for a job. Like I said, I was doing some consulting, and I was looking for a company to buy that was in that the size range that I was consulting for, which is about the size that GRI is. It kind of worked out. It was pretty interesting. But I got a call from a recruiter one day. And like I said, I wasn't taking recruiter calls. I really wasn't looking for a job. And I don't know why I took the call. And kind of an interesting story. My dad had just died. And I was sitting in my home office, and I'm kind of going through a bunch of things, looking for opportunities, looking for investments, things like that. And for some reason, I called the recruiter back. I don't know why. Maybe my dad told me to do. Maybe he told me to do so. And he said, are you looking for anything? I said, well, you know what, not really. I said it would have to be very, region specific. And he said, how about Exton, Pennsylvania? And I just kind of looked at him. Are you kidding me? I was just looking for houses in Exton, PA. So it kind of intrigued me. I came and met with David Moser, talk about the opportunity. They had a general manager who had just retired, and met with him and Mike Shorts, and the opportunity just seemed like it was a perfect fit for the kind of thing I was consulting for. And so I said, well, let me take a shot, because now I can run a company and not have to invest my money. So it actually worked out pretty well. So that's kind of how I got here. So was it intervention from beyond? I don't know, but that's kind of what happened. It was I've told that story a few times, and I don't know why I took that call. Something just told me to take that call, and I did, and here I am. So I've been
Yeah,
here
it's
for 7
a
years.
yeah.
Yeah,
That's a
yeah,
great combination of like
yeah.
expertise leading to you to where you could be, like knowing you had that consulting experience and you've been in like similar industries that are related to get to you to this point. It feels like it all aligned perfectly.
Things happen for a reason, I guess,
Yeah,
and
I guess so. Guess so.
maybe
And possibly your dad.
maybe so.
Maybe,
We'll see.
maybe.
But it's been a good ride. Been a good ride.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you've mentioned that the headquarters is located there, but I know that there is another location for GRI as well. That kind of leads into the next question, which is overseeing operations in two different locations, um,
Mhm. Hmm.
different parts of the country. Like, how does that shape your leadership approach and your day-to-day decision making?
It's a good question. So, based on my background is I have overseen multiple locations. My last job as VP of operations, we had 19 locations and they were global. So there were some in Europe and we actually did a lot of work in China, looking for acquisition opportunities over there. So when I came here and I started to travel around with the RSMs and actually with Celeste Pauli on one trip out in the Southeast, I kept hearing a kind of a recurring theme is that our customers wanted to do more business with us, but we weren't located in that area. And that Southeast region is our largest area, but we can't respond as quickly as our competitors. So one of the first things, I started to look at was, well, how can we expand? And should we look to buy another company? So having been in M&A for 12 years at my prior job, I got into that mode looking for what kind of acquisition targets are out there, what makes sense for GRI to purchase. And at the end of the day, because of our model, the model doesn't fit an acquisition of a distributor, which are most of our customers. So if we were to buy a distributor, we'd buy a distributor who is selling our competitive products. Once you buy them, you're not going to want to sell competitive products anymore. So I looked at a number of different options there and nothing seemed to make any sense. So we said, well, you know what? Why don't we just duplicate what we have here in Pennsylvania and put another location out in PA? And that's kind of how LaPorte came about. So so we've duplicated the operations here that we have in Pennsylvania and Texas, and we actually put all of our technology in LaPorte. That's the hub of where most of our business is. So that's kind of how that came about. So.
Great. And I know with that expansion, you've also extensively expanded its manufacturing capabilities. So, what have been the biggest milestones or game-changing steps for that growth to happen?
Well, most of the manufacturing, we're a soft gasket company, really, but we've expanded as Triangle has. We've expanded into metal gaskets. Now, for years we've sold and resold metal gaskets, but now we're in the manufacturing space. So I'm going to say the biggest uh, milestone for us was to really establish ourselves as a metal gasket manufacturer. So while we're relatively small in that space with respect to our competition, we've hired a lot of really experienced people in that metal space, some really experienced manufacturing guys. We have one guy with over 30 years experience who's done a lot of training and opening plants for our competition. So we kind of lured him over here about 5 years ago, and he's kind of been the catalyst for our metal gasket business. But having the metal gasket business, which is still a relatively small percentage of our overall business, kind of makes us that complete gasket manufacturer, if you will. So from a credibility standpoint, we now have we can manufacture pretty much any kind of metal gasket or cam profile, and with the capabilities we brought in, um, we can do a lot of things. We can even do some things that our larger competitors cannot. So it's been a nice acquisition. So that's given us, credibility on the soft gasket side as well. So and then, on top of that, we have, and I think you've interviewed Celeste Pauli in a prior episode of this. She comes from that metal background, as does our technical guy, technical guy, Lee Melvin. So having that expertise in terms of engineering and sales, now coupling that with manufacturing, has kind of really made us a complete gasket manufacturer. On top of Durlon having a really good brand name, good brand recognition in the marketplace, that's kind of really helped us grow over the past few years.
Definitely a lot of work behind the scenes, a really great team.
Yeah,
Yeah.
for sure. Mhm. Yeah,
So, when looking ahead, what opportunities and industry shifts excite you the most? And how is GRI preparing to meet those?
that's a good question. So one of the things we're seeing now, and I won't name any competitors' names, but one of the things we're seeing now is competitors more moving more and more to online sales. And there's less of an emphasis now on, I call the kneecap to kneecap interaction of salespeople with customers. And, because some of our competitors have large brand recognition names, I think there's a bit of an entitlement perception on their part that, well, their product's going to sell themselves. We are relatively small in the industry with good brand recognition. So we pride ourselves on being really easy to work with, very customer focused. When we make a mistake, we own it, we fix it, we move on. And so the industry shift is really one towards going away from the individual salesperson working with the customer. We're trying to capitalize on that. We're trying to do more. So we've hired some really experienced salespeople. We're trying to expand our reach and our coverage of the North American market, which is ours. And I think because of that, and because of our ability to build relationships and build partnerships with our distributors, they're more willing to take us into end user accounts. They're more willing to to spec out or recommend a Durlon product because they know they're going to be serviced. They're going to be taken care of. And I mentioned this before, but one of the things that I think we do really well, every every supplier, every manufacturer, and I've been doing this for 37 years. Everybody makes mistakes. We all have quality issues. We all have supply issues. It's inevitable. It will happen. But I think when we make a mistake, we don't try to we don't try to work our way around. We own it. We try to make it right. And I always tell people, our customers won't. They don't fire us for making mistakes. They fire us for how we handle mistakes. And I think we handle them very well. So, we have really good corrective action systems in place. With our ISO certification, when we do make a mistake, we get to the root cause. We try to understand why it happened. We put corrective actions in place so it doesn't happen again. So all that, our customer focused, the lack of customer focus by some of our competitors, I think that's what excites me. We all have good products. I think our products are as good or better in most cases. But we don't win business because of our products, so to speak. We win business because of our ability to build relationships with our distributors.
That's
So,
definitely a big strength I find with a lot of people
Mhm.
in our global company. Everyone has very nice like social skills as well. The team works really well together.
Yeah,
And of course with the end
Mhm.
users and customers.
Yeah, for sure. Mhm.
All right. And I do have a little bit of an offbeat personality based question if you are willing to take it.
Go for it. Uh-huh.
Okay, great. So, with the amount of experience you've had, and it's very like within a similar industry, what's one unexpected skill or hobby you have that most people wouldn't expect you to have?
Skill or hobby, kind of
Mhm.
unrelated to my work life here.
Yeah, something that would shock or not maybe shock, just a little bit like wouldn't expect it.
Wouldn't expect it. I'm a okay. I don't know if this is what you're looking for. I'm a
Mhm.
huge saltwater fish enthusiast. So
Really?
yeah. So I have I've kept saltwater fish reef tanks for 30 years. It's kind of one of
Wow.
the things I just love. It's before we moved from New York, I had a 300-gallon reef tank, and I kind of designed it and built it from scratch. Being a chemical engineer, it kind of I just kind of like that stuff, right? So so I designed it and built it from scratch, and we built it into the wall, and it was one of those all-encompassing hobbies. And and I kind of now since I moved here, I've downsized, but I still kind of maintain that. So yes, I'm a I actually we talk about social media a lot in our sales meetings, and some of the things that we're doing in terms of online presence. And so, I do some things on the side that are kind of fun. And I wish I knew then what I know now about social media and online presence, because I would have vlogged that saltwater tank forever and really built a following, because it was great. It was a lot of fun. But
Yeah,
yeah, yeah.
that's
So
definitely a very like that's a
Mhm.
time-consuming hobby, but also very rewarding with the amount of work you put in and what you see. Did you
Yeah.
have like a favorite type of fish, like within that saltwater world that you preferred to have or
Well,
own?
I was always a community fish. So it was a community fish, so not
Mhm.
aggressive fish.
Okay.
And I always had to pick because I had live corals. I had to pick fish that were coral safe too. So there's kind of a relatively narrow window of the types of fish you can keep in a reef tank. But some people like the aggressive ones, the sharks and things like that that eat other fish. But I kind of went the community route. Plus, I had a young daughter at the time, and she didn't want to see that stuff. So, but uh, but yeah, so that maybe that's one thing if that's what you're looking for. But that's
Yeah, absolutely.
something many people may not know. Yeah.
Mhm. Absolutely. Yeah, thank you for
Mhm.
sharing. I
Sure.
always love to hear a little bit more like tidbits about what people in our work team are doing. And yeah, and that's all the questions I really had prepared. Did you have any final remarks at all?
No, I think did I give you enough?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. Thank you for taking the time to speak with me and stay tuned for the next episode of Behind the Seal.
Thank you.